On the wedding night, I realized my husband didn't care about me anymore, cold, indifferent, almost making me invisible. Feeling lonely and disappointed, while I longed for someone to really see, feel me. Then my husband's best friend, the best man, appeared in the bridal chamber. And everything changed. In that moment, I couldn't resist. I challenged him to make contact, and then I pleaded with him to continue. The veil remained ensnared in my hair, not the ethereal and whimsical sight captured in photographs, but rather a chaotic tangle caught on one of the pearl buttons at the nape of my neck. The remnants of my lipstick clung to my lips in a patchy manner, while the hem of my dress bore the marks of my missteps, stained by spilled wine and the exuberance of well-wishers. I found myself perched on the edge of the honeymoon suite's bed, my breath coming in quick gasps, as if I had just sprinted a mile, despite having remained still for what felt like an eternity. The air was thick with the scent of roses and champagne, an overwhelming sweetness that clamored for attention. As I sat there, my eyes fixated on the swirling wallpaper, I found myself hoping for the dizzying motion to cease when suddenly a knock echoed through the room. I chose not to respond. I found myself fixated on the door as if my gaze alone could will it to vanish. Yet it opened, neither slowly nor with an apology. And then it was he, not my husband, he. He was an outsider, a misfit in that room, on that night. Yet he entered as if he owned the place. The best man of my husband, the sole person who gazed at me in the manner I had longed for, as if he could see the fragments of my being, yearning to embrace each shattered piece. I parted my lips to voice my dissent, yet what escaped was merely his name. Only his name, and that was the only approval he required. He hesitated before kissing me. He strolled over to the armchair opposite the bed, removed his jacket, and settled in as if he were anticipating my unraveling before his own. As if he had rehearsed this scenario in his thoughts countless times, yearning to witness it unfold precisely as he envisioned. My fingers trembled with an unsteady rhythm. That memory lingers in my mind. I lifted the champagne glass, seeking to occupy my hands, but the glass struck my teeth with a sharp clink, prompting a low, deep laugh from him, one that held no mockery, only an understanding. "I assumed you would be fast asleep by this hour," he remarked. I had expected my husband to return by now, and my response came out more slowly than I intended, my voice tinged with raw emotion. Our gazes lingered, an unspoken connection that transcended the boundaries of mere strangers or even the familiarity of friendship. It was as if they were all aware of their intentions, yet the question of who would take the first step lingered in the air, unaddressed. The silence enveloped everything, a palpable tension in the air. Every element in the room felt constricted, my corset, my clenched fists, my tightened throat. "I should leave," he whispered, yet he remained. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, his gaze no longer meeting mine but drifting lower to the gentle curve of my chest, where the gown had slipped down just enough to expose skin that still carried the scent of gardenias mingled with nervous sweat. I ought to have let out a cry, reached out to someone, should have composed myself, adjusted my dress, and reminded myself of my new identity as a wife. Instead, I placed the glass down and rose, taking 3 deliberate steps across the room to reach him. I refrained from taking a seat in his lap. I refrained from making any contact with him. I stood there, nestled between his knees, scarcely drawing breath, allowing his warmth to envelop my thighs. "Speak it," he whispered. "What did you say? Is it that you wish for me to keep my distance?" I was unable to. I did not. My lips parted, yet silence lingered in the air. Simply inhale, simply yield. He accepted that as his response, and then his hands found their way to my hips, neither hurried nor harsh, simply asserting their presence. He refrained from urging me onto the bed. He rose gradually, bringing us to eye level. His hand cradled the side of my neck, his thumb gliding along my jaw as if he were capturing the fleeting essence of the moment before it slipped away. "You're trembling," he remarked. "I feel no fear." I was not truthful. "No," he replied. "A hunger stirs within you." When he kissed me, it was not the kiss of someone probing limits. It was the kiss of a person fully aware of the boundary being breached, yet chose to proceed regardless. Leisurely, expansive, sweltering, with ears held back. I inhaled sharply as our lips met, and he consumed the breath as if it were a vow. He kissed me until my spine arched, until the hour slipped away, until my name became a distant echo intertwined with another's. The soft chime of my wedding ring brushed against his belt buckle as my hand nestled against his waist. The sound should have served as a warning, yet all I could perceive was the relentless thrum of my own heartbeat. As his lips brushed against my collarbone, I surrendered to the moment, my eyes fluttering shut. The bed creaked softly behind us, urging a choice, yet we remained still, unyielding in our silence. We stood there, bodies pressed together, the silence enveloping us, powerful enough to silence everything beyond our shared space. You have no idea what I transformed into that night. Allow me to demonstrate. I never intended to experience such depth of emotion. Not following the toasts, the photographs, the dance. Not after the way my husband scarcely glanced at me once the ceremony concluded, as if I had transformed into a mere fixture in his existence, rather than a vibrant flame. Yet, as I stood there feeling the warmth of another man's breath against my skin, it dawned on me just how long I had yearned to be truly noticed. In the months leading up to the wedding, our intimacy had all but vanished, not in a manner that blurs the boundaries between your own form and that of another. He claimed exhaustion, mentioned he was reserving it for their honeymoon. Yet, even in the moment our lips met, it bore the weight of pretense, rigid and mechanical, akin to a mere handshake exchanged between characters. I persisted in hoping for a transformation, yearning for the spark to return, wishing for the quiet pain to finally cease. Yet, the sole transformation that occurred was within me, my stance, my grin, my readiness to diminish, ensuring that the distance separating us did not echo with emptiness. This evening was meant to fulfill the vow, the enchanting narrative. Yet there I was, caught in the act of slipping from my dress, murmuring secrets into another's lips. Not words, not confessions, merely sounds, merely yes. His jacket lay discarded on the floor. The veil had vanished. It slipped away from my memory, and I couldn't even recall when it happened. The zipper at my back had descended to a point where the bodice slackened with each breath I took, each delicate touch of a fingertip along my spine. Would you like to cease? He inquired once more, his lips grazing the delicate contour of my ear. No, I murmured, my voice laced with urgency and a hint of desperation. Then more gently, this evening, solitude is not what I seek. You're not, he stated. This evening is not suitable. He guided me to the window, not the bed. The city lights shimmered through the glass, a hazy backdrop as he eased the gown down further, each inch of fabric seemingly tethered to unspoken memories we would never revisit. The frigid breeze seeping through the fractured window sent a shiver coursing through me, yet his hand provided a steadying presence, one resting at my lower back, the other on my shoulder, anchoring me as if he sensed the possibility of my descent. He took his time. The silence lingered between us, a sacred space I hadn't experienced in years. At the outset, it was my body that turned against me. I found myself arching into him before I even registered the motion. His breath hitched, and then his fingers glided down my thigh, pausing at the ribbon of lace that clung to me, tracing its edge as if charting a path to a sacred place. I've desired this, he whispered against the nape of my neck, since that very first moment you gazed at me as if you were not his. I wished to express that this was not the case, that I had never regarded him in such a manner. Yet I found myself unable to deceive. Not for him, not at this moment. For even prior to the ring, the dress, and the paperwork, there existed a moment, a fleeting, almost foolish moment, at the rehearsal dinner. He brushed past me in the hallway, our shoulders grazing, and I turned to look back, only for a fleeting moment, merely sufficient in duration. I am not who you believe me to be, I uttered, my voice quivering as my knees shook beneath me. Excellent, he remarked. For the same reason, I find myself in the same position. He kissed me as if he were wiping away a past, not the memory of our wedding night, but all those nights prior when I feigned indifference to my deeper desires. My fingers brushed against the nape of his neck. I drew him nearer, craving the solidity, the affirmation that I remained tangible, that I hadn't drifted away from my own existence and into another's world. This was still me, even if I were to pass her by tomorrow, unknowing. The window's reflection captured us entwined, standing in silence, words unspoken between us. My visage resembled that of another's, a figure of greater courage. Someone has already tarnished it. Yet I found myself unable to cease. I had no desire to. Silence enveloped us as I guided him to the bed. My gown lay on the floor, a spectral remnant of something once pure and ceremonial, now lost to memory. I chose not to glance back at it. I averted my gaze from the door. My gaze fell upon him. His jaw tightened, his eyes shadowed with uncertainty. He was not merely performing. There was a tenderness that made the entire room pulse with emotion. He lingered at the brink of the mattress, while I felt the sheet's coolness brushing against my thighs. My fingers brushed against his shirt, hesitant at first, but he grasped my hand and pressed a kiss to the back of it. That shattered a part of my being. Not the kiss, but the reverence. As if I were a treasure, even while I was shattering all that was holy. "I've never laid a hand on a bride before," he remarked with a sardonic chuckle, shedding his shirt regardless, especially not on her wedding night. "I'm not a bride at this moment," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I find myself simply existing." He settled beside me, neither imposing nor overwhelming, simply present. The mattress sagged under our weight as he gently swept my hair aside, his gaze probing into my eyes, as if he were seeking the fragment of me that still yearned to refuse. Yet it had vanished completely. His hands glided with a deliberate grace, fingertips delicately mapping the contours of my shoulder, the curve of my collarbone, and the gentle slope of my arm, finally resting at the small of my back. Each caress seemed to pose a query, while every tremor I offered him served as the response. "I don't want to hurt you," he murmured softly into the curve of my neck. "I already told you," I said. And then, in a gentler manner, though not as you might imagine, the room fell into a profound silence, as if the very air had ceased its dance. His lips brushed against the delicate skin just beneath my ear, not with hunger or intent to seduce, but as if that taste was essential for his very breath. He pressed his lips against my chest, each kiss deliberate and cautious, his gaze locked onto mine with every breath he took. My body reacted before my mind could comprehend, hips tilting back, lips arching, parting with a sound I never knew I could produce. The jeans fell to the floor, landing with a gentle thud. I extended my hand toward him, and as my fingers encircled his waist, a sharp gasp escaped his lips. It was not a mere moan. It was a pause, as if a part of him had been anticipating this moment for far too long. "Tell me to stop," he repeated, his voice taut, eyes filled with urgency. I felt an undeniable urge to continue. I replied, fully aware of the implications, even as the ring on my finger dug into the small of his back when I drew him nearer. We glided through the space, as if we were familiar souls, bound by an unspoken connection, where silence reigned, accompanied only by the soft rustle of sheets and the gentle cadence of our breaths. The bed creaked beneath us, its rhythm slow, as if it understood that our actions were not meant for the light of day. In that fleeting instant, with his lips pressed softly against my shoulder and my fingers entwined in his hair, the world around us faded away, leaving only the two of us in that perfect oblivion. The blossoms, the orations, the gentleman who bestowed upon me his name yet withheld his gaze. I revealed my heart to him too quickly, too eagerly, and despised how perfectly it resonated within me. Every fiber of my being surrendered, devoid of any urge to escape, only a searing heat, a profound ache, and an unsettling proximity to an insatiable need lingered within me. I ought to have wept, to have distanced myself and declared that we were erring, yet instead, I softly uttered his name once more. He groaned against my skin, moving deeper and slower, as if he were attempting to imprint every part of me from the inside out. I sank my teeth into my own wrist, stifling the urge to cry out. The sound emerged, muted yet undeniable, and in that moment, I realized this was no mere error. It was a decision, a dreadful yet flawless and irrevocable decision. In the aftermath, silence enveloped us. We remained entwined in the center of the bed, the atmosphere heavy with perspiration and stillness, each of us scarcely inhaling. His hand lay gently on my stomach, neither possessive nor demanding, but steady and warm, a comforting anchor I hadn't realized I was longing for. The heaviness of it grounded me in a way that the promises never could. The streetlights outside danced erratically against the curtains, their glow mingling with the distant, muffled sounds of a party still unfolding somewhere below. My husband was likely caught up in laughter, raising a glass, intoxicated by tales shared with those who never met my gaze. Guilt should have slithered its way up my throat, yet all I experienced was a profound sense of fullness. His thumb moved in languid circles over my ribs, and I flinched not from fear but from the overwhelming tenderness of the moment. It had been years since anyone had laid a hand on me in such a way. No one had stayed, not even on that initial evening, not even on the night we became engaged. "You're quiet," he said, his voice rough around the edges. "What would you like me to express?" "I'm uncertain that you feel remorse for it." "You do not." "I do not," I whispered, and I truly meant it. Yet my chest constricted regardless, for understanding did not render it just. He shifted onto his side to meet my gaze completely, one hand lingering on my skin while the other gently caressed my cheek. "If I were to inquire about your thoughts in this very moment, I would be deceiving myself," I confessed, my gaze faltering as it met his. I could easily say that I despised it or attribute it solely to the influence of alcohol, but that would be untruthful. What is the truth? In all honesty, it wasn't until I found myself beneath you that I truly felt like a bride tonight. His eyes darkened, not with desire, but with something more profound, perhaps pain, or the burden of understanding that he had transformed into the figure I would recall each time I reached for my husband. "I should go," he murmured, yet remained still. "I said you won't." Indeed, I was correct. He kissed me once more, this time with a lingering slowness, as if it were a farewell. Yet it was not. I drew him closer, preventing him from rising to his feet. The second time carried a gentler touch. There is no rush, no blaze, only a gentle inhalation, a quiet stillness, and a gradual letting go. We glided as if the universe had vanished, as though no repercussions lingered beyond the threshold of the hotel door. As if we existed in a narrative meant solely for us, a tale that would remain forever unwritten for the world beyond. As I shut my eyes, a wave of sensations enveloped me. The rasp of his stubble against my neck, the creak of the mattress, the path of his fingers gliding along the inner curve of my thigh. The painful expanse of time I wished would never conclude. I encircled his shoulders with my arms, gripping him more firmly than was perhaps necessary. Once more, his name escaped my lips, this time not in a moan, but as a desperate plea. He gazed down at me as if I belonged to him. Not just for tonight, but for all eternity. And that filled me with a deeper fear than anything else could, for I understood that the sensation of being desired in such a manner would forever remain etched in my memory. To unravel with such gradualness, such totality, that I could no longer discern where I concluded and he commenced. In that moment, as he pressed his lips to my ring, both a mockery and a gesture of reverence, I felt an undeniable shift within me, one that would remain forever altered. I awoke in the pre-dawn hush, my throat parched, my skin lingering with the warmth of unspoken words. The sheets lying next to me felt icy against my skin. He had vanished. No note. Silence prevails. The gentle aroma of him lingers on the pillow, accompanied by the slightest impression left behind, a whisper of his presence. I foolishly pressed my face against it. Relief should have washed over me. Yet all I sensed was the burden of my actions, pressing down like an unripe bruise, waiting to reveal its true colors. My limbs throbbed with discomfort, not from the act of moving, but from the strain of containing it all. I wrapped the sheets tightly around myself, acutely conscious of my vulnerability, of my exposure, even amidst the stillness. I rose gradually, my legs unsteady, my body resonating with sensations I preferred to keep unspoken. The dress lay abandoned on the floor, creased and forlorn, reminiscent of a costume discarded after the final curtain call. I gazed at it, reluctant to return it to its place. I chose instead to approach the mirror. My hair lay in disarray, my lips were slightly swollen, and a delicate red mark adorned my shoulder, a testament to his fervent kiss. It appeared as a wound, yet it bore no pain. I splashed my face in the sink, the water icy against my skin, scrubbing at the warmth that lingered stubbornly, refusing to wash away. As I lifted my gaze once more, I found it difficult to identify the reflection before me. My eyes appeared aged, or perhaps simply alert. A gentle rap on the door shattered the silence. My heart came to a halt. "Darling, are you awake?" My partner in life. I remained motionless, the fabric clinging to my form, the mirror casting a judgment on my figure, revealing the lingering sensations from the other man's touch. Indeed, I called out, my voice barely a whisper. "Please hold on for just a moment." "Very well, I have brought coffee." His voice resonated with a sweetness, a comforting familiarity. He was making an effort. That was the very thing that exacerbated the situation. I hurriedly searched the closet, locating a robe that I wrapped around myself, concealing the evidence. I tucked my hair behind my ears, slipped the ring back onto my finger without a glance, and then opened the door. He offered me a weary smile, his eyes heavy with fatigue. It was a tumultuous night. "Indeed," I remarked, grasping the cup. I hardly slept at all. He remained oblivious to everything around him. It wasn't the way I recoiled when his lips brushed against my forehead. Not the way I clutched the knot of the robe, a lingering fear that it might slip free. We perched on the edge of the bed, cradling our coffee as if we were just like everyone else. As if nothing had transpired. Yet, the stillness that lingered between us had transformed. It was no longer devoid of presence. It brimmed with a clandestine truth I could never reveal. As he stepped into the shower, I remained motionless, attuned to the sound of the water cascading down, pondering if the drain might also whisk my guilt away. The soft vibration of my phone echoed from the nightstand, a message without a name attached. I apologized for departing in that manner. Then yet another. Yet, I found myself unable to remain and feign. I gazed upon it. No response received. It has been removed. Subsequently, the thread was deleted, as though wiping away the traces could somehow diminish the emotion. Yet it did not. I remained acutely aware of his hands. I can still recall the way he uttered my name, as if it pained him to do so. And to my dismay, I found myself missing him. The subsequent days melded into a haze. Grins pulled taut, dialogues practiced. Once more, I donned white for the beach photos, allowing him to press a kiss to my cheek as the camera captured the moment, and I held his hand under the watchful eyes of our relatives. Yet within me, I found myself in a realm far removed from the present moment. It wasn't that my affection for my husband was absent. Perhaps I did. Perhaps it was merely the notion of being cherished by someone who had selected me that captivated my heart. Yet the decision now seemed devoid of substance, as if I had been possessed rather than truly acknowledged. I found myself revisiting that night in my thoughts, recalling the way he touched me as if I were the solution to a question he had pondered for years. My body surrendered effortlessly, as though it had been anticipating that precise instant all along. I found myself glancing at my phone repeatedly, half anticipating the arrival of another message. Yet, there was not. He had taken the path I ought to have chosen, turned and left, remained quiet. Allow it to conclude at its origin. Yet, I found it impossible to truly release my grip. At times, I found myself positioned by the window of our hotel room, gazing down at the streetlights illuminating the pavement below, lost in thought about whether he might be strolling by, if he ever glanced upward. Whether he recalled my presence with each subtle creak of the bed in the shadows. My dreams were vivid as well. The warmth of his breath against my back, his voice softly murmuring desires I had never dared to acknowledge before. Each morning, I would rise with my heart pounding and a weight of guilt pressing down on me, making it hard to draw a breath. And then I would kiss my husband good morning, as if I hadn't betrayed him while he slept in the very same building. It's peculiar the burdens we choose to bear and the secrets we decide to entomb. I returned to the rhythm of my existence, to my work, to the evening meals, with my wedding album laid open on the table before me. In the photographs, I wore a smile. I appeared luminous. Yet the woman captured in those photographs had vanished long before the shutter clicked. Our paths never crossed again, not face to face. It was no mere coincidence. As I strolled past a bar in the heart of downtown, my eyes were drawn to a figure seated at the counter. Raven locks, hands that evoke a sense of recognition. My knees trembled slightly. I continued my journey on foot. I chose not to look back. And still, on certain nights, I allow myself to recall the way his name flowed from my lips as I breathed it against his skin. His refusal to seek anything but the truth was striking. I kept it to myself, never sharing a word with another soul. Not someone I consider my closest friend. Not even the image that stares back at me. Yet I held that night within me, a photograph visible only to my eyes, creased, concealed, and singed at the edges. That night, I embraced my role as a wife. Yet, it unfolded differently than I had anticipated. I transformed into a woman who understood the distinction between love and desire. I decided to guard that secret closely, not due to a fear of losing my husband. Yet, I was acutely aware that I had already forfeited the fragment of my being that was solely his. If this narrative resonates with the fear you hold within, I invite you to share it with me, in a manner devoid of identity, or simply remain here and experience it alongside me. Join DUKAKA for every tale we've kept hidden, waiting to be told.